Marvel Rivals is out now.
How to play Star-Lord in Marvel Rivals in 1 minute.
Marvel Rivals has 15 secret team-up abilities.
Spider-Man has a one-shot in Marvel Rivals.
What is Marvel Rivals?
Marvel Rivals is out now and available to play for free. And it's mediocre at best.
Now, I know what I just said, but I'm not here to convince you that the game is bad, just that it isn't good. While I wasn't particularly excited for this game to come out, most of my friends were. So on the release weekend, I downloaded and played for about 10 hours. And despite that I mostly enjoyed myself, it was entirely because of who I was playing with, but not what I was playing. My first glaring issue with this game is what many others have been saying well before this game was ever released, and it's the game's identity. Marvel's Overwatch. Well, I don't entirely agree with the point, I don't entirely disagree either, but being a hero-based arena shooter, it was bound to be compared to its predecessor. Like I said, I don't entirely agree with the point, but it's hard to completely disregard it when it feels as though the devs of Rivals couldn't even be bothered to make their own game mode, or at least put a more unique spin on the ones we're used to seeing. Marvel Rivals dropped with 3 game modes: Convoy, Domination, and Convergence. And these are the same game modes that Overwatch has, being Escort, Control, and Assault. So when you're playing this game, it's kinda hard not to feel like you're just playing Marvel's Overwatch. Yeah, I know what you're gonna say. These 3 game modes are pretty standard for a game like this, so what else were they supposed to do? And for that, I'll draw your attention to Peak. No, not you. Get out of here. For those of you whose childhood was spent living under a rock, this is the best third-person shooter of all time, Garden Warfare. A class-based shooter where most of the variation comes from, well, variants. Each team has 7 main classes that each have a number of variants, such as Ice or Fire. And with an 8th secret class that you have to go through an entire ordeal to even unlock, but that's for another time. While Garden Warfare does have the very standard game modes, it also has 2 that I think would have been great replacements for the ones that we got in Marvel Rivals. The first mode is called Gnome Bomb. It consists of 3 totems belonging to either team, and a bomb that spawns in the center of the map. Each team is trying to get the bomb and place it under one of the enemy's totems. The player who currently holds the bomb can move and shoot freely, but doesn't have access to their abilities. Once a bomb has been successfully placed at the enemy's totem, it then has to be defended. The winner is the first team to destroy all 3 of the enemy's totems, or the team with the most totems left standing after the timer has run out. While 3 objectives may seem like a lot to defend, with each team only having 6 players, most of the characters in Rivals have quite a bit of mobility, so as long as the map is made with this in mind, there shouldn't be much of an issue. The second game mode is called Suburbanation. It consists of 3 objectives that must be captured and held by the 2 teams, with each captured objective providing passive points to the team's total, and kills granting bonus points depending on how many objectives the team holds. But this does come with the same potential issue of 3 objectives to 6-player teams. However, this is a game mode that another shooter, Destiny 2, currently has in their game that also has teams of only 6 players. While the fact that Rivals has the game modes that it does isn't proof that it's Marvel's Overwatch, it does contribute to a kind of lazy feeling. And while I do really hope that they'll add these game modes, or at least something similar to Rivals, it's just another thing that led me to feel like this was just their version of Overwatch. The other thing I wanted to talk about today, which most people who clicked on this video assumed I was going to cover at some point, are the characters in the game. The characters that I take issue with broadly fall into one of 2 categories. Either feeling very uninspired with lackluster or boring abilities that vaguely tie back into the character you're playing, or characters that feel incredibly inspired by Overwatch. Starting with the first category that I mentioned, my very best example, I feel, is Scarlet Witch herself. Even if we're really only considering her more broadly known appearance in the MCU, in those movies she has such a diverse repertoire of abilities. Armed with her chaos magic? Armed with her chaos magic, she is able to manipulate the world and, at some points, the multiverse itself. She has been shown to completely alter all reality by creating an entire town exactly to her liking, forcing all the residents to live by her will, and eventually freely traveling the multiverse while she searches for the family she's always wanted. Despite having access to all these abilities, in Marvel's Overwatch, Scarlet Witch just uses incredibly bland and generic magic. With her primary fire being a beam of magic, her alternate fire being a shard of exploding magic, an AoE stun, and the ability to briefly fly, her ultimate's gonna have to really wow me to make up for this. And with that being said, let's take a look at her ultimate. Oh, she just magics all over the place. Neat. While Scarlet Witch is definitely the worst of the worst, most of the characters that fall into this category are a lot less offensive, like Iron Man, whose abilities are fine. He blasts his repulsors, he shoots his laser beams, he flies around, with his ultimate being a big repulsor blast, which is, once again, fine. Iron Man does do those things. I personally felt that Iron Man would have been a lot more fun had they made him more of a stance switcher, being able to swap between his different suits to have different abilities. And if they really ran with this, we could have gotten something that was a lot of fun to play, with the different suits maybe each having their own health pools being gradually repaired over time when not in use, with some with the ability to fly, some without, some with more health, some with less. And his ultimate could have been either partially or fully healing all the suits and letting him swap between on a significantly decreased cooldown. But maybe that's just me. The second category of characters are ones that, while they may not be carbon copies of Overwatch characters, you can definitely tell who they were inspired by. I don't want to focus on one-off abilities that are similar to other ones in Overwatch, like how Scarlet Witch kind of has a Moira fade, because the rest of her kit is completely unrelated. And you could argue those ones all day, and quite frankly, I just don't care. Instead, I wanted to focus on characters that are like Venom, with a grapple hook, a slam, and an adaptive shield. Whoops, wrong gameplay. With a grapple hook, a slam, and an adaptive shield, to me, these abilities are just lackluster and don't really scream Venom. Yes, obviously Venom was going to be able to web swing, but why give him a slam? His adaptive shield ability is really the only thing that makes him a tank in this game, and his ultimate is just the same thing, another adaptive shield. And his last ability isn't anything better either. It's just an AoE slow that deals some extra damage if you stay within the range for the entire duration. Venom is a character that most adaptations characterize as ravenous. For example, in his own game, his health bar functions more as a hunger meter that slowly depletes over time, and that he has to replenish by eating enemies. With his other main characterization being the ability to stretch out his body, as opposed to swinging from a web, Venom is sorely lacking in any sort of lifesteal or real displacement abilities. If you can't tell, I'm really not happy with how they did Venom in this game, somehow seeming to make him both incredibly inspired and incredibly uninspired at the same time. Another really good example of a character who feels incredibly inspired by Overwatch is Magneto, with the ability to put a bubble shield on himself or allies, a primary fire that shoots a projectile that explodes after a set distance, and his alternate fire being launching a larger projectile with a CC attached to it. But, I mean, hey, at least he doesn't gain extra damage when his bubbles are shot. Switching subjects for a minute, this is something that I added rather late into the process, but I still wanted to talk about. This isn't really a problem with Rivals itself, because Overwatch is going through a very similar thing, with a lot of players feeling that the support class is just able to do way too much. With characters like Cloak and Dagger, whose healing per second is absolutely insane, being able to survive 2 simultaneous Punisher ults while standing in her own, and then you have Satan himself, Jeff the Landshark, with a heal beam that has infinite range, 0 falloff, and additionally can penetrate through teammates that I don't believe has any sort of cooldown on it at all. He also has a traversal ability that he can stay in indefinitely that not only cuts his hitbox into a quarter of the size, but is also able to climb walls for some reason. And I'm not even going to talk about his ultimate ability because everybody already knows how absolutely mind-numbing it is. Far too often now, we're seeing these characters that are easy to play, who have way too much impact on a game, despite their very low skill ceiling and easy to pick up nature. Now that I've complained about this game for about 8 minutes straight, I do want to point out that not every character feels bland or directly inspired by another IP. With characters like Spider-Man, whose web-slinging shenanigans and in-your-face playstyle is not only fun to play, but feels true to the character. Or Hulk, who fulfills the unstoppable monster fantasy with an amazing twist of turning back into Bruce Banner when your HP hits 0, making him function more like a mech character. Where the game really shines is its own unique mechanic called team-ups. Anybody who's even seen gameplay probably already knows because they put it all over the marketing. When 2 to 3 characters are on the same team, it'll activate a team-up, typically providing the characters with either an extra active ability or a unique passive. It's just as fun as it sounds, and honestly, it's a great addition. Being able to throw Wolverine as Hulk, being able to ride around on Groot if you're playing as Rocket or Jeff, or Venom sharing his symbiote with some of the other Spider people was an amazing choice that is one of the sole things that make this game feel unique, and I hope that they'll continue to expand on this as more characters get released. In addition to having a free battle pass and an in-game currency that has a one-to-one exchange with their premium currency, Marvel Rivals is a breath of fresh air compared to the over-capitalistic nature of a lot of games that have become more and more commonplace. I am a little skeptical about this though, because the game is also free to play, so I don't really understand how the devs are making money. While I am a little worried that this is just a marketing ploy to play on the growing frustrations of a lot of people with the state of games, hopefully this isn't the case and Marvel Rivals will help us pave a way back from the very exploitative practices that we're currently in. In any case, I think this is a good spot to wrap the video up. I just wanted to try to make a more commentary focused video because I find myself watching more and more of these style creators in my own free time. I know they'll most likely never see this, but I just wanted to say thanks to Sheev Talks, Madvocate, and Random Film Talk for inspiring me to try my own hand at a commentary video. And if you enjoy this style of video, I highly recommend that you guys go check out their channels. I'll put a link in the description. If you enjoyed listening to me ramble, then make sure you like and subscribe. And if you disagree with any point that I made, feel free to say so down in the comments and I'll make you see the light. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.